Hello and welcome back to the Weekend Spread. I'm your host, Bobby Howard. With me today, we've got Ty Lee, the defending champion from last year, and the captain, Boaton Blake. And look, we're kind of shifting things up a little bit from how we've done previews in the past. In previous summers, we've gone down and done, full conferences, all of that. Frankly, I don't want to talk about the Big Ten or ACC. I'm just where I'm at right now. I'm a little tapped out on that. So we're going to bring back a bit of a throwback for those of you, whoever was out there for the very, very early days of the Weekend Spread and Schooner Pod. You know that we used to just kind of rattle off our favorite win totals, our favorite conference champions. It was always a chaotic event. And then we would, rank the Big 12 by itself on its own. We're still going to do the Big 12 and and more importantly, the SEC here in the coming weeks, where we kind of do those classic rankings. But we're bringing back the prop pod from the vault. So, boys, how excited are we? We're under a month out from college football kicking off. It's pretty awesome. Get this thing going.
No, this is fantastic. Getting back to the roots. I believe it's our only in-person taping of the Weekend Spread, or I think at that time it was still under the Schooner Pod rankings when we did our prop podcast, I believe out of Bobby's apartment in Oklahoma City, where we had all four together in one location. We saw some behind-the-scenes footage of that recently. Absolutely wild, but happy for another season.
With Jameson's dog Douglas running around too, barking.
The audio on that, if I can find it, it's probably horrendous. It's like our voices are probably picking up over one another as we just yell at each other about like Memphis over 5.5 win total or whatever we were talking about at the time. Like it was probably horrendous trying to listen to it.
It was Duke, and that one hit.
Yeah, Duke did hit. It was it definitely still up there. We had a bit of a disaster with our podcast feed where we lost legitimately half of last season due to shifting host. It really messed me up for a little bit, even though sports podcasts are like the least watchable, re-listenable things possible. But that one still exists if you are willing to scroll far enough. The 2019 season preview, it's still out there, and it's very much unlistenable, probably, but like you said, our standards have changed a little bit. Got to give a shout out before we start to our guy, Lord King Big Nuts, who gave us a super chat. Thank you, good sir. He said, "Here's another for my favorite pod. Also, TCU is butt cheeks." So thank you, sir. Much appreciated, as always. So anytime you need to chime in here, Lord King, just let us know. We'll read your stuff on the pod. Ty, are you excited for football season? Just coming down the bend.
Yes, I'm very, very excited for college football. I've reached that part of the summer where I did a little. I guess my attention span for this kind of thing is short. I did about 3 days of playing the college football video game before I burnt out on it, and then I've been watching some random like TikTok edits posted to YouTube. Because I'm an old now. But I've been getting hype. I've been getting really hype. I saw a clip the other day that was posted by Johnny Manziel's bar. That's like great advertisement for college students. And it's just him talking about his win or lose, we booze mentality, and showing like clips and stuff. It was awesome. So I'm very ready, very, very ready for college football, and very excited to dive into the Weekend Spread, which is so fun each week.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I was going to say, which I might add, I think this is second year in a row where we've all been pretty well over 500. So I guess luck will run out potentially this year, but we have been getting fairly good at this gambling thing, I suppose.
I think you might be misremembering the season because you were great, but Jameson and I were awful. Like I had the worst year I've ever had. Jameson was also not good. The whole thing was a disaster, like on our end. But you and Blake were pretty solid.
They don't understand. They can't adapt to the portal and NIL era, Blake. That's what it is.
Bobby's not ready for this 1-2 punch on the podcast. He usually has his fellow ball not knower on his side.
He's in the
That
middle.
can at least protect him a little bit.
Blake, give me a high five over here.
I'm marooned on Ball Not Knower Island over here. I suppose. But I've been thinking about what I've done wrong and how to improve, and how shifty it is. Because that's the thing about college football is every year everything just shakes up so wildly. I mean, you look at the field last year with Indiana making a run to the in the playoff, and I think a lot of unexpected happened last season. So predict, and I mean, the Big 12 is a total Arizona State was picked last and they made won the Big 12, gave Texas a run for their money. You really don't know in college football. So these predictions totally just kind of, firing darts blindfolded. You have no idea what's going to happen, but it's still fun to make them anyways.
No, I agree.
Well, sometimes you know what's going to happen because
there is some tried and true.
Sometimes fundamental truths, like the fact that when DJU goes to a school, they get remarkably worse. And then when Vegas pumps the odds when he goes to Florida State, you just know to fade them. So there are things like that.
That is fair. You were all over DJU being not good at Florida State, but anyways, let's dive into it. We're going to start out with our favorite win total overs. So if you're not familiar with this specific prop, why are you listening to the podcast? But we are here to teach you. Essentially, you set a team at a mark. Let's say LSU over 8.5 wins, something like that. And
come on, dude. You could have thought of any win total and you thought of that one.
It was right there on my notes. I'm sorry, Blake. Hypothetically, a team or Delta State over 8.5 wins. And if they go over, you hit your over, under, you hit your under. We're gonna go with our favorite overs though. So Blake, start us off. What's one of your favorite overs for the 2025 season?
Well, Bobby ruined the surprise because my favorite over this season is LSU over 8.5 wins. I think Brian Kelly, I don't know if he'll ever win a championship there, but I do think LSU has the talent, the capability, the recruiting, the transfer portal additions consistently to be a very, very good team. Like, I could see them ending up being kind of what we thought of Notre Dame, where they're always there, but Brian Kelly can't put them over the edge. But this team is very good. Last year, I think kind of some of their weaknesses were they only threw the ball. Like, they had no run support whatsoever on offense, and still were kind of just league average when it comes to defense. But if you looked at LSU 2 years ago, they were bottom of the league, allowing people just to score all over them in complete shootouts. So that's where I think Blake Baker has done a very good job at LSU, getting them back to kind of the middle. And I think with their transfer portal additions on defense, they're going to be even better this year. But the offense is just going to be fantastic. I think Garrett Nussmeier has one more year under his belt. I think at times he was inconsistent last year, but ultimately kind of clutch. Like, everybody always cites the Ole Miss game last year as his clutchest performance. Ole Miss was throwing that game away. It was not Garrett Nussmeier was throwing some ducks by the end of that thing, but he gets a lot of hype around him because the numbers are there, because they're passing basically every single down. But I think this year, maybe the numbers go down a little bit, but it's going to be a little bit more well-rounded of an offense. The addition of Nick Anderson from OU on them wide receiver core gives them a more consistent target. They bring in a few others, return a guy there, and then they return their top rusher with 2 studs as freshmen. I think the running game gets a little bit better. I have them projected record 10-2 when I'm going through their schedule. It is a little bit brutal. Like, they open up at Clemson. Like, I think that's one of their losses, but really, I like their chances. I love their upside in this conference, especially the SEC, where there's a lot of really good teams at the top. I don't think there's a great team that is for sure running this league. So I think LSU takes advantage of it. So I'm taking that over 8.5 wins.
I really do like LSU overall this season. So I was a little bit surprised to see them at 8.5. I understand the SEC is a gauntlet. Nobody really knows who's going to take control of that. But I feel like LSU is way closer to being, a national championship type contender than they are an 8-win team. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Number one thing for LSU is we got to shout out, like Blake said, our boy Nick Anderson. That one hurts me in particular to see him go from an OU family and everything else. But that's going to be a lethal combo with Nussmeier and Nick Anderson alone, and just the talent that state produces in football is insane. So yeah, I don't hate that one. I think Blake should be made to answer for and defend maybe his number 2 on his list, just very briefly, because it's a reach. I think it's one of the more inflated totals. I think it's the second biggest total in college football right now, and it's so I would maybe like him to speak on that very briefly.
So Penn State, that's my second one, over 10.5 wins. Ty is right. This is very, very inflated. But this is a simple fact. Like, I put this down because this is just going to be my love letter for Penn State this year, because it's typically a team that I love to roast. It's typically a team that, as Ty talks about, there's some pretty constants. Penn State's one of those of they can beat up on the lower competition, but when they hit those elite teams, they will never be able to beat them. But this is the year that I'm putting my flag down and saying Penn State's going to take that next leap. I think a major theme without college football this year is a lot of the top dogs we've seen, whether it be Georgia, whether it be Ohio State, Michigan, Texas, maybe not included in this, but a lot of them have a lot of unknowns when it comes to the quarterback position, when it comes to a lot of these position groups. It feels like their best years were maybe last year, like Ohio State, where they obviously won the national championship, but lost a lot to the NFL. Oregon lost a lot of experience with Dylan Gabriel going. There's just a lot of question marks when you look at the quarterback space at a lot of these top teams. And Drew Aller, although I don't think is ever going to be the most elite quarterback, I don't think he's going to be a Heisman contending quarterback, like maybe in the sense that Penn State will be good, but I don't think he'll put up the numbers. I was giving him, I think, unfair hate in the sense that he has not had legitimate wide receivers ever. And that is something like they had Tyler Warren last year, who was a great tight end and did a lot. But when Penn State got to the semifinals last year, they didn't have a single completion to a wide receiver. That is insane for a program that is that big. And they stress this so much in the offseason to go out and get elite guys. They got the guy from USC. They got in Syracuse's top wide receiver. They really went out and got a wide receiver class that I think can contend for a national championship this year. And that's on top of the fact that you have Katron Allen, you have Nick Singleton, like probably the best running back room in America coming back, one of the best lines. They had already a good defense. I think it's like 3 or 4 all Big Ten guys coming back. Plus, they added Jim Knowles, and they have Andy Koldnicki on the other side doing the offense. Like, this team, if you take away the Penn State branding, you would say they are by far the number 1 team in the nation. But because James Franklin has not won the big one or has really come up short in those big games, people, I think, are casting them to a side, but their talent level is insane. Their experience is insane. They probably have the 2 best coordinators right now in America. This is the year. Like, if they can't do it this year and get to a national championship, then I don't know what you can do, because in an age where people are transferring, going early to the NFL, they brought back NFL like level talent that are going to be seniors this year. So I have them going over 10.5 wins. If you look at their schedule, the 2 losses that could potentially happen, it's Oregon, it's Ohio State. I think they beat one of them. And Penn State has shown they can beat up on the little guys. And so I think they're going to have 10 wins there easy. But I think they beat up like Oregon or Ohio State, one of them. I just don't think is going to hit as much this year. I don't think it'll show in the record because the Big Ten is kind of soft outside the top ones. But I think they beat one of those. So Penn State
both of them smoked them last year, correct?
Did they?
Like, it was, I think both were 3 touchdown games. They played Oregon in the Big Ten championship, I believe, and then
Yep. And then Ohio State. Yep.
Because Ohio State was their only relevant opponent in the regular season.
I will say
Penn
the Big
State
Ten
fans complaining about the SEC's number of conference games, and then you pull up their schedule, and it's like, bro, this is an auto bid to the playoff for Vanderbilt if you gave them this schedule.
I'll give them like pat on the back to the Big Ten. They do a good job of insulating their top teams. They know that conference is built up for about 3 to 4 teams each year to be very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And we do not give them hard schedules. Give them an opponent or two to legitimize it. And if they lose, it's a bad loss, but give them a bunch of fodder at the bottom just to pad, get them to 9 wins at least, and then you can go from there.
In the Big Ten's defense, if you look at schedules last year, they were clearly counting on USC to be like pretty relevant. So they kind of had someone that didn't uphold their end of the bargain there. But I would like to note real quick, we're about 15 minutes into actual content, and Blake has basically spoken this entire time about how James Franklin is going to be a relevant coach nationally, alongside he who shall not be named at LSU. So there is that.
Yeah, I think for me, like the Franklin thing, like this is a year where it does have to come together, and you have to make another deep run. You know, you have as much stability as it kind of gets, and then you add in a guy like Franklin, which is, or not Franklin, but Jim Knowles, which is such a huge addition.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't want to say it's now or never. But
it feels like it though.
No.
Yeah. I don't want to be too dour about that. I believe I pretty much said the same thing about Ryan Day, like entering the playoff, and they ended up getting hot and figuring it out. But you know, it feels like a really well set up situation for Penn State.
They're not going to fire. Like, if he doesn't if he gets to the playoff and flames out, he's not going to get fired. But it just feels like you're not going to have another situation like this for another 2-3 years, if that, where you have 2 of the best coordinators in the game. You have the most experienced roster, it seems like. It's just, you can't waste experience in this age of college football where guys are moving, guys are going to the NFL. There's people pulling people in a million directions, and they're still able to keep depth at key positions. Ty?
Yeah, no, I was going to say it's definitely not now or never for James Franklin. If Penn State loves one thing, it's just maintaining a coach that's going to get you like 9 to 10 wins, and they're just giving him basically tenure. If Penn State could have had Bo Pelini, he'd still be there. They would have loved that dude. Just 9 wins. Just give us 9 forever, and you're golden. But yeah, I think for their national championship hopes, I do agree. I've seen a lot of people say this. I know both of you are recycling this from Josh Pate, because that's where you get all your takes. And we all know that he's said that very recently. But I don't know. It feels like now or never. But in this age of college football, it's just, I don't know. I feel like I've made this analogy before, but Penn State is very much sort of a blue Texas in that same ability to like retain talent, unlike other people are right now. So we might end up talking about Texas later on in this pod, but I feel like that's actually a pretty good analogy for Penn State and for Texas. They're very similar in that ability to really recruit really well and retain that talent. A lot of that is financial right now, but they will be interesting to see, because I don't think there's someone you can count out in this new era of college football just on their alumni base and financial resources alone.
Yep. I mean, like you said, that the resources, all that, through the roof, and I will say, yeah, I would say definitely more blue Texas, because they have had success, under, other guys in the past. But, if they didn't have that, if they didn't have the Joe Paterno era, they'd basically just be blue, Texas A&M, really, but without the cult thing. But
they're kind of, he just kind of made them blue Kansas State, but we probably need to move on.
Kansas State actually won stuff, but like some small stuff, but I don't know. Ty, who are some of your favorite overs?
My very favorite over this season is one that's all based on, I feel like as much as Vegas tries to be impartial, there's always going to be, I think it's worth one win, which is a lot. I think there's one win in everyone's win totals that's baked into like a recency bias or a past performance or whatever else. And I feel like there's someone that obviously mega collapsed last year, but could have been not a conference champion, probably wouldn't have gone to their conference championship, but a fairly relevant team nationally, probably would have gone to a bowl game, won their bowl games, so maybe 8-9 win team potentially. But they were cursed. They made a cardinal sin. Everyone in college football thought that this was the right move, except for two people, me and Dabo Sweeney. That's because Florida State brought in DJU, not knowing that when he went to Clemson, they got worse and then immediately got better when he left. When he went to Washington State, they got worse and then immediately got better when he left. Yes, one of those red state schools up there.
They're one of the Pac-2.
One of the Pac-2, yes, Oregon State. And then he went to Florida State, and his coup de grace, he made them so much worse than he's made any other team. And right now, you can get them at, depends on the odds you want. You can go over to, what is this, MGM, and you can get them at 7.5 wins plus 200. Personally, I don't recommend that, right? That's a little much, but you can get them on pretty much every other betting site at over 6.5 wins. And I think that Florida State next year, I'm going to read you their schedule. I'm going to try to keep it brief, I think they have 7 wins in them. They have Alabama. That's a loss. East Texas A&M. I don't know if that's associated with like Texas A&M or we're not going to get into that. Kent State, who is the current lowest win total in college football right now. They're at 1.5. They go to Virginia. They have Miami, Florida, but in October, and that's when Miami starts to fall off. But even then, we only need 7 wins out of them. Pittsburgh, Stanford, Wake Forest, Clemson. Again, we only need 7 wins out of them. Vautech, NC State, and then they cap off the season going to Florida. I think there are 7 wins in there for this Florida State team. I understand there's some pressure on everyone over there. I think that helps this. And I think just fundamentally, they have enough star power on this team. And certainly they are not so incompetent that they're going to come and repeat the same mistakes as last season. And if they do, we might be in an interim head coach situation in the later half of the season. And then who knows? This is just going to be a fun roller coaster to ride. But I think Florida State over 6.5. So Florida State getting 7 wins. I am actually really, really on the train for. So that's my primary one for sure.
Well, and I think Florida State depends on how much you really like Thomas Castellanos, who ironically was a big part of, kind of pushing Florida State deeper into the doldrums after that disastrous Ireland game against Georgia Tech. And then they go play Boston College on that. I think it was like a Monday night, and it was like, oh, season over. So I could see a bounce back here. I think Norvell is a better coach than last year's record indicated. So I could see a bounce back for FSU.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, the thing with Florida State to me is like it just feels like it was a revolving door of everybody left and everybody came in. So everybody leaving obviously probably wasn't that good, but trying to scrap together a whole team. Like I like Castellanos, like I think that was a good bring in. Like I think he fits well with Gus Malzahn and what he wants to run. Like Gus Malzahn loves the dual threat quarterback, loves to do the read option type stuff, but I also just don't trust Gus Malzahn in 2025. Like I saw what he did at UCF, like with their resources, and basically got demoted to an offensive coordinator role because he couldn't effectively run a program. I don't like the fact that they're having to rebuild the offensive line. And I've seen it with TCU last year where you're building majority of your offensive line through the portal and it just doesn't click for a while. That concerns me. The schedule a little bit does because I think they have guaranteed losses. Alabama, Miami, Florida, and Clemson. So that already gives them 4. I don't want to project my next one, but I'm high on Pittsburgh. I'm very high on Pittsburgh. And between that and it just, I don't know, like last year was concerning. If I understand missing out on the playoff when you're 13-0, that will have a mental effect on you, but falling to just winning two games all year long, like that worries me about Norvell. Like he did the reset, but like this is a make or break year. I can see Ty's point where it's like this can fuel him because the job is on the line, but it just always scares me when it's like both sides of the ball are built by transfers, two new coordinators, and you're just like praying that this works.
I don't know. I think you're betting on post-August, post-September Miami being an auto win against people that they should beat, and that's sort of
see
the biggest gambler's fallacy in college football of the past decade.
They won't come up on this podcast, at least from me, but Miami, I think, is always going to be, as long as they have Mario Cristobal, they're always going to be pretty decent. Like they're starting to get to the point where they're recruiting at such a high level that they have talent there and they have a lot of it. And a lot of these ACC schools are just not bringing in the same talent that Miami is. And so they're going to will some teams around. Like even last year when I thought like, oh, Miami was like a little disappointing and stuff like that, I actually went back and just like looked at all the games and I'm like, Miami was really in it till the end and then just kind of fell off a cliff versus like a bad, like a surprising Syracuse team and a very, very scrappy Georgia Tech team. And so Miami was there in it. Like they obviously lost their best quarterback, but I think like still are just going to always, will they be elite? I don't think so because I just don't think Mario Cristobal, he's a great recruiter, but I don't think he can coach, but they just have a talent advantage over most teams besides Clemson and the ACC.
And let me say real quick on the Florida State pick, because it does kind of hinge a little bit on Castellanos. So I do want to say, if I've hurt anyone out there, I can't tell you how much I say from the bottom of my heart. I'm very, very sorry. And I pride myself on being a man of faith. And there's a drive deep left field by Castellanos. It'll be a home run. And so that'll make it a 4-0 ball game. And I don't know if I'm going to be putting on this headset again.
The fact that we actually got Tom Brenneman calling a Boston College game last year was just beautiful poetry that we actually got him to be like, oh, Castellanos. And they like gave a weird little look into the camera.
The glory of the CW joining the college football media empire.
Shout out to the CW. I'm not going to lie. I'm pro CW. Like, I know we kind of made fun of it because it's a bit of a silly, brand and everything. But the more football you can get over an antenna, the better, if you ask me.
Yep, I agree. And when you give it to these smaller stations that are only doing a few games, they actually give a crap about the game they're calling and try to actually just call the game and learn about the teams and do stuff like that, where we see our worldwide leader in sports basically just use it as like 3 hours of promo for their other shows and other games. Like they're talking about the next game coming on, not the actual game. So I'm all for spreading around the media rights for sure.
Right. Yep, for sure. I'm going to go with an over here. And maybe I might be a fool for believing in this team.
Oh gosh, Bobby,
he's like,
the season hot.
Give me North Carolina.
No, God, not North Carolina. No, I'm going to go with Nebraska over 7.5 here. I think. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, CW over Peacock. Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm gonna go with Nebraska. I think the schedule sets up decently nice for them. They don't have a really difficult non-conference. You got a neutral site game against Cincy. Overall, I feel like Matt Rule's teams have gotten better year by year. Obviously, you have some tough ones. On the schedule, you have to go to Happy Valley, Michigan. Always a bit tricky, but the home games I think set up pretty well. The road games outside of that Penn State game aren't that difficult. I think Raiola, is a solid quarterback, and as he keeps getting older and kind of developing, I think he's going to be a pretty solid QB. I feel like eight wins is pretty attainable here. I think that's probably about where they end up, but I'm buying I'm buying the Husker stock. I really think Matt Rule is the type of guy who could build that program back to what, probably not what it used to be. Because I question whether or not they'll ever get back to that point. But I think they can make it a pretty solid program. So I'm gonna go with Nebraska over 7.5.
Yeah, I think Nebraska, I kind of do like I like it because I do think it's like Dylan Raiola. I think we as a college football viewing audience forget that freshmen need time to develop. And so when you start them immediately, like they're probably just going to be bad and they're going to get better. And that's how it's always worked in college football. And we just forget it because of the transfer portal era. And you just assume everybody that comes in is going to be fantastic. So I do think he takes the next step. I do think Matt Rule's a great fit there. Dana Holgerson as the OC. We shall see.
I still forget that. I still can't believe that actually happened, which is incredible.
But I do see in my mind when I think this is just like a vibes only thing, I feel like going into November, looking at their schedule, they will be 7-1 probably. People will be hyping them up, and then they just like completely just. It's one of those, the hype train's going to get going, and then they start playing some like tough back-to-backs and stuff like that, and you kind of end up more at 8-4, 9-3, and it's like, oh dang it, like I thought they were going to be there, but their front part of their schedule besides Cincinnati and Michigan, which kind of a wild card of where they end up, I think is pretty easy. Like I think it's pretty easy Big Ten standards. So
yeah, not absurdly high like odds. I found them on DraftKings for -150, but if I'm going for one I really like, I'd go Nebraska. I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of value on some overs. Blake, I don't know if you have any that just look really tasty in terms of teams that people are pretty down on. Does anybody else have any other overs, or should we move on to the unders?
I got two quick hitters.
You got it, Blake.
So, ACC team, I thought to include one of those since we're not doing a conference preview, but I love Pitt over 6.5 wins. I think this team was poised to do some great things last year and really just got derailed because Eli Holstein went out. I think the hire of Cade Bell by Narduzzi was absolutely genius. He came from, I believe, like Western Carolina, was an offensive genius there. It feels like Pitt kind of has a more forward-thinking offense, which is awesome. I think Eli Holstein's going to take the next step. They return a good amount on defense. They return their star running back, who's kind of not like I would say plays it like a Christian McCaffrey Cam Scatabo light, like just as good of a receiver as he is a runner. I think if everything stays healthy, 6.5, even with the hard schedule, I think they're just going to be kind of bruising up on ACC team. So this is not one I'm choosing because of the schedule. It's more of, I think they are a good team. They're going to upset some teams that you don't expect. I think the quality is there. I think Narduzzi, although he doesn't transfer portal well, recruit well, he's one of those rare coaches, probably like a Kirk Ferentz, like as an example, that just still makes NFL guys out of absolutely nothing. So take a Pitt over 6.5. And then my last one that I had was just kind of a system play whenever this happened, but it's BYU over 6.5. Dropped significantly after Jake Retzlaff transferred out of Tulane, or transferred out. He got kicked out of BYU and transferred over to Tulane. And so this one's more of just a system play, a market over correction. Jake Retzlaff was a good quarterback, but when it comes to the Big 12, he wasn't even sniffing top half this year. The Big 12 quarterback play is so incredible. I think Sataki, like he's a great, just gets the most out of his players. It feels like year to year. Schedule sets up pretty nicely as well, but I just don't think losing a win and a half off of your win total is worth for Jake Retzlaff. Like they got one of the Bachmeier brothers there. They have other options. I think they're still going to be pretty decent. So that one's just a system one. But yeah, BYU over 6.5.
I think that's a very good point about Retzlaff being kind of a system guy. I obviously, quarterbacks always, especially on winning teams, always kind of take that starring role, or in a lot of people's eyes. But he really, what he did, I feel like is relatively replicatable.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Believable
how that goes.
player.
Yeah, he's yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you got it, Ty.
I was going to say, Darren in the chat, Indy over 8.5. I think they're going to fall off, but I like that one too because I don't think they fall off that massively. And you look at their schedule, I could absolutely see 9 wins there. And then my other quick hit, because you can get it at plus 200, looks like right now on MGM. If you believe that Mike Gundy can squirrel his way into a bowl game, Oklahoma State 5.5 for plus 200 is some good value.
Oh man,
Oh God.
Could he do it? I don't.
I-
That's a tasty little treat. That's a
No,
tasty little
I'm not
that is-
touching that thing with the
I
10
love
That
people.
I
is
love an
an
excuse
incredible-
to root for Oklahoma State now that we don't play them, especially.
That is an incredible segue because I actually have both of these, or like I think both of these teams are very worth discussing. Indiana over under 8.5. I have them on the under because to me I feel like it's a stress test of how legit were they last year, because the schedule completely flips for them. Obviously, super easy non-con, but Illinois at
It
Iowa.
doesn't though. It doesn't though. That's the problem because of how they schedule their stupid non-conference.
Well,
It
yeah,
doesn't flip for them. They guarantee a pack of 4 wins right there.
but they get three. They get 3 really easy wins. But I feel like the Big Ten schedule is significantly harder this year for them.
Yeah, but I don't think
At
it's
Penn
that
State,
bad.
at Autzen, at Iowa, like they have a brutal pack of road games, and I think to me like that's kind of why I'm shading under. Obviously you have some pretty big shifts. Fernando Mendoza takes the reins at the starting quarterback there for Indiana. I actually really liked him at Cal, but I don't know. I feel like there might be a dip in year 2 of the Signetti era. 8.5 feels a little bit too high for me personally, but I think that's probably one of the most fascinating like win totals of the entire of college football. So I think Darren was kind of had a good spot there.
Do you think that Indy minus 7.5 would be a more realistic one?
I feel like
if you were a bookmaker, would you put them at 7.5? I'm just trying to reinforce my like recency bias is worth one win.
No, I think it's
take.
I think Vegas set a great number here. Like, I think they set
I
a
agree.
fantastic number. Like, I think Indiana as a whole reloaded with like the core that they had. They have the most infuriating non-conference scheduling policy now that it's like started all the rage at Big Ten media days when Kurt Signetti was like, well, the SEC only plays 8 conference games, but the SEC plays a legitimate non-conference opponent. Like, I looked at every single
Big Ten team.
Yes, like I looked at every single one. The only one that can't say that is Ole Miss, and I get on to them every season because they just try to load in the wins by playing like these really bad schools. Like, they notoriously just go against really bad schools, but they have 4 games baked in. They have automatic losses at Oregon and Penn State. I'll give them that, but everything else I think is lighter. Like, I think Illinois is getting a lot of hype, but this is a little bit of a vibes thing. But anytime Illinois gets hype, they're not going to be good. Like, they are always a team that is surprising. They are never the ones that are actually maintaining the level of credibility that they have. And then I look at the next, like the only other hard game on that schedule, I think is Iowa. And like they could lose that, but they only have to flip one of those and they're good. Like the bottom of the Big Ten's bad. Like it's really, really bad. Like when I see teams like Maryland, Wisconsin on a schedule, Purdue, like those teams are legitimately awful. So I think although the schedule is a little bit harder, the same principles apply. They're going to roll a lot of these teams. I think there's an easy scenario. I think 9-3 is where I have them. Like I wouldn't go anymore. Like they're going to drop one of those, but Sig is a great coach. They brought in a lot of good transfers. Like I think this team's going to be good, and it's going to be one of the better Big Ten teams.
Yeah, it's just a matter of if it like meshes and melds the right way. And, if some of those tight games that they ended up squeaking out last year, if you can keep having those break the right way, kind of similar to, a TCU in 2020, 2022, then you kind of roll the dice and, kind of go razor's edge and, make a couple changes. And sometimes it just doesn't translate. So my thing on that under is I kind of feel like there's a lot of unknowns and, the schedule shifts. And that's kind of my thoughts on that. I do want to get into Oklahoma State.
Let's do it.
DraftKings has them. I saw DraftKings have them at, I think 4.5. I love the under. I love the under on that. I feel like even though Mike Gundy and OSU always find ways to bounce back after bad years, I kind of think the sport might have passed him by. I know they've tried to make some changes. They've tried to put a lot more emphasis into NIL. I feel like it's gone. It's a little too far gone at this point. Obviously, saved his job last year, just narrowly took a massive pay cut. But for me, I'm not buying the roster. I mean, who's their quarterback? White Flores, something like that. I have no idea who's going to be under center.
When your own son portals out, that is kind of maybe not the best sign, but
well, and not only that, but he portaled out to like NAIA, despite the fact that he was in the quarterback race. Like, I mean, come on. Like, for me, I personally think Oklahoma State is going to, like, I think their schedule sets up really poorly. You have a brutal non-conference having to go on the road to Autzen Stadium. I think their Big 12 schedule's tough. I feel like if there was a year where you have to try to rebound and kind of save the program, this isn't the roster, this isn't the schedule, and I don't think Gundy's the coach to do it anymore. That's my thoughts on that.
See, what's happened here is you got that dog cornered, and you think it's going to show you what's in its mouth, and that's you're about to find out it's going to slip through your legs, and that dog with that contract in its mouth that is Mike Gundy is going to keep running around. I don't know. It's like how many times has Mike Gundy been on, like, it's your last chance, Mike, and then he locks in. He's one of those students that does, and I've done this before, does that sort of academic comeback. He's riding that C all year, and then finals time comes, and he's going to invest the 2 hours to study and then bump that grade up to an A. But I don't know. Don't count him out. Don't count him out.
I'm more or less in agreement with Bobby. Like, the talent on that roster is so bad. Looking 5 years ago or something, like, it's night and day difference of what talent they have.
What Ollie Gordon was like a 2-star?
Yeah, but we knew coming into last year he was good. Like,
yeah, because he made his name the year before. That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
but I'm not gonna trust that just Ollie Gordon's.
That man was lower. That man was significant. I just looked it up. That man was significantly lower rated than like Marcus Major.
But also the reason why OSU was so good for a while is they backed up good. I would say Gundy has been good on the offense of finding unheralded wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks, but Jim Knowles' defense there was like the X factor of making them not just be a mid-level Big 12 team, but actually making them elite. And I just haven't seen much on the defensive side of the ball that it's fallen off a cliff. They did the double coordinator switch, just like Florida State, which always makes me scared because that's pull in case of emergency. They hired for their offense Doug Meacham from TCU, who I think is an absolute garbage offensive coordinator. He was ours for the longest time. Like, I was happy to see him leave. Like, he's a great position coach. Like, he's a great wide receivers coach, but I don't want him running the offense. So he's taking the reins there. The only thing that gives me hope about OSU, I think, the quarterback race, I believe. So it's between, what's his name? No, Zane Flores, and then TCU transfer Haas Haney, and that guy rocks. He is fast. He is fast as all get out. He is like a true scrambler. And so if anything's going to save you from the brink of collapse, it's just some freaky fast quarterback that's all right at passing, but like he has sprinter level speed. And so if they can figure out a way to make that work, they could win a game or two that they're not supposed to. But
you're telling me
last year, I think he was the fastest quarterback in NCAA 25.
You're telling me that we got Mike Gundy cornered. We got Mike Gundy dead for rights right now. And then you guys, TCU, gave him the fastest quarterback in college football, who also happens to be named Haas.
He's not like he wasn't beating Hoover. Like, he's not beating Hoover at TCU.
Okay, everyone's beating Hoover in a 40-yard dash.
Oh yes, in a 40-yard dash.
We could put Jameson's 3-month-old son against Josh Hoover in a 40-yard dash, and I think it'd be 50-50 odds. But
it's hilarious. Yeah, I we'll see how it goes. I think that's one of those things where maybe you don't put money on it because you know how Mike Gundy is. I mean, even even
Bobby's
that
a sicko and just wants to see it happen. He's
I think it's going to
manifesting.
happen, but I'm like, I don't maybe like
See, Bobby's
I'm starting to get a little tepid now. It's like even
sleeper
that
agent Bobby is trying to reverse jinx OSU into a bowl game right now.
well, like think about no, because Ty, you do have a point. Like think about that year where they made the Big 12 championship with Texas. Like that was a team that was not good to start the season. Like
That was like a 4. That was another like 5.5. Like it's a very
and
different.
it
Big
looked
12.
like they were
It is a
heading
very
for it.
different
They
Big
lost to
12.
South Alabama at home. Really gnarly lost to Iowa State. They're running like the 3 quarterback system. It just kind of clicked it together. But that team had a way easier schedule than this one. And I think to me, that's the difference. And I think that's why it's probably going to fall apart this year. But, that's just kind of how things go. All right. Blake, do you have any unders? What are some of your unders?
My problem was I had to limit the amount of unders. I realized how much of a
The
hater
biggest
I
hater.
am, but it was so easy to come up with unders.
You had
and
what?
overs.
3 overs, so you got 127 unders.
I said it took me a while, like to get those overs. Like I had LSU pretty right off the bat, but then I really had to sit there. I guess I'm a hater, but this is my candidate just to be not like Florida State per se in the sense of like went from undefeated to like the wheels fell off, but I just think it's a Power 5 program that's just going to absolutely hit into a nosedive this year. It's Arizona. I don't understand why their win total is set at 5.5. I do not. I see 2 guaranteed wins on the schedule, and like the rest, I think are just an absolute toss up. I don't think Brent Brennan is a good coach at all. Like going from last year or 2 years ago, where you had Jed Fish, and Noah Fafita, Tedero McMillan, and that team exceed so well, and then still have 2 of those same pieces, and it just fall off the rails last year. Like couldn't even figure out what they did, what to do with Tedero McMillan. Noah Fafita just looks bad. Like he just looks like a bad quarterback now. And they pulled the double coordinator switch after year 1. They only had 1 year and they already pulled that stuff. Like he's on the hot seat like no other. And I don't think this is one that's gonna, it's gonna save them. It's gonna ignite it. No, I think this program's just in a tailspin. This one was just an easy, a principled one. Not even looking at the schedule as like you're telling me it's either are they gonna make a bowl or not for Arizona? Looking at that November, playing 4 legitimate teams in the Big 12 with Kansas, Cincinnati, Baylor, and Arizona State. Like if they've quit by then, those teams are going to roll them. Are going to absolutely roll them. This could get bad. I think this gets ugly. I think they go like 2-10 this year, 3-9. I think it's going to be really bad. So under Arizona, and Brent Brennan gets fired by the end of the year.
It was just a lot of really weird regression from Arizona. Like a lot of teams had some really weird seasons. Arizona was top of that list for me. Like at least with Utah, you could understand why Utah fell off the cliff because of everything going on with the quarterback and will he, won't he play, that sort of deal. Arizona just sucked.
It had like Tedero McMillan is probably one of the most talented players they've had in that program. It just couldn't figure out how to like convert that into wins. They had a guy that had won them. How many games they went 10 or they went 10-3 that season.
The Alamo Bowl year against OU. Yeah, like they were good. Like they had it figured out. But I mean Jed Fish, that which is again, some people might say that head coaches don't matter as much these days, but just ask Arizona, when you lose Fish. That just sunk them.
And Brennan, I think, came from San Jose State, and they hired Ken Niumatalolo, and they immediately became like 10 billion times better after him. It's like it's a disaster in the sense of he left a program, they immediately got way better with his players, and then went to another program and just completely like threw him off a cliff. So
yeah, it's like Cincinnati and Scott Satterfield. It's just weird. Ty, who I know you love to engage in a good bit of hating from time to time. Do you have who are some of your unders?
Yeah, so one, right, I think we've talked about them enough. And I think I was a little impartial when we discussed them before, but Penn State, I think I think that's an under. I think that's an under because to my thing is like, in short, when we're looking at Penn State and we're saying, oh, they returned these people, they're returning like all this talent, that to me is kind of, it's just, you know what you're going to get from Penn State and James Franklin. And to me, it's a bit of a devil you know situation. And it's like, yes, we recognize these names because they've been there. They've been there not winning Big Ten championships. They've been there not winning big games within the Big Ten, and they've been there not winning national championships, and they've returned. And to me, I think, yeah, Oregon replaced a lot of people, but I think they absolutely lose Oregon. They absolutely lose Ohio State, and that's already got them under. And then, Indiana, like we talked about, will they or won't they? It's a classic, Hallmark, I guess, romance drama between Indy and Penn State right now. But we got a dude named Sig that I can bet on, and that's amazing. So I'm just kind of going on vibes. And in Penn State, I don't know. I think it's just a little inflated. So I'm fading them. But that's just a little brief tap before we get into, I think the thing to do is to fade the big stories, the stuff that has to get hyped for you to buy into it. To me, that's a red flag, right? They don't got to advertise Georgia because you know that you're going to see Georgia in the postseason. You know that you're going to see their players on Cops. You know they're gonna you're gonna see them on Twitter or whatever it's called now, like making those big recruiting waves. They don't need to advertise those things. But when you got to go out and advertise and remind people again and again and again and again that Bill Belichick is coaching the UNC Tar Heels, absolutely gorgeous campus, absolutely amazing branding, Jordan School for obvious reasons.
Which Jordan?
I love the country.
That was a good one.
The nation. I love UNC. So do not take this the wrong way. And look, I was a bit of a Bill Belichick fan. I was a bit of a Patriots fan because my high school copied the Patriots branding. I'm not sure how that's legal, but
it isn't.
In Mississippi, I don't know that they necessarily follow the laws of these United States. So it was a bit like Django Unchained. But I like the Pats. I just don't think that it comes together this year. There is so much stuff already. No one has ever talked about this UNC team and mentioned anything that's actually going to translate to on-the-field performance. The one caveat to this is, with the way that college football has changed now to an NIL and into a transfer portal era, I do think there is value in bringing a guy that's been successful in the NFL because it's so fundamentally different from like the Nick Saban era or, all these guys that sort of had these programs and you went into college football and you were committed for 4 or 5 years and you learned a program and you could transfer, but you were shooting yourself in the foot if you did, and you really had to commit to something. That's not the NFL. I do think there's value in that, but North Carolina's win total right now is 7.5, and they play TCU. I'm not going to comment on this because for the longest time, I was the only person in the media saying that Colorado was going to beat TCU, which I was right about. Again, like the DJU thing, but they don't want to listen to a hater. Charlotte, Richmond, those are winnable games. UCF, Clemson, I think they lose all those. Cal, probably a winnable game. Virginia, I think that's a very losable game. Syracuse, who knows? They always have like one or two like random good players. Stanford, that's a winnable game. Wake, they probably win that one. Duke, and then NC State. I don't see 7 for sure wins on their schedule, let alone 8. So give me UNC under. And then again, just very brief touch. Colorado, 5.5 right now. I think they get ghosted before October. I think their coach straight up just doesn't show up. They lost 2 dudes who got their jerseys retired, one deservingly so. So I don't know. I think
Ty has a lot of just throughout so many controversial takes that I disagree with.
And I mean, let's be honest with Dion.
Blake is on the Colorado train now?
Not on the Colorado train, but
I think Dion has
their defense is better.
I think he's got Urban Meyer Florida health issues.
I mean, he had his bladder removed for. He
He's
had
missing multiple toes.
he has
That was
he's
before-
not
before
just
we got there.
faking. Like he didn't have his bladder removed for.
Listen, Urban Meyer actually had a heart attack, but like,
Yeah, but
No,
he
okay, there's
obviously could still
difference. There
coach
is a
afterwards.
difference.
there are levels to
Yeah,
this.
the difference was Urban Meyer won national championships and will be OU's coach next year. So I have to be complimentary of him.
Oh my god.
Back on the UNC point. The problem is, like, I do agree with Ty. It's like just because Bill Belichick is there doesn't mean it comes together. Their schedule's a piece of cake. Like when it comes to the ACC, they hit like majority of the bottom teams. I think it's like 4 of the 5 projected bottom, and I think like of the 10 teams they play, like 7, like they don't play, like they just don't play good teams. And so if he can coach them up to a decent amount, like I agree, there's probably not ones that you're saying there that you're like auto win. But if they're somewhat competent, they'll run through the schedule and probably hit 8 wins, maybe even 9 wins fairly easily.
It's just a matter of if Belichick's like heart and head are actually in this or not. You know, like
I wouldn't bet it. I would not bet this.
No, like he is genuinely one of the greatest NFL coaches of all time, but he's also going through just such a bizarre period of his life that I wouldn't back him at all, but I also wouldn't doubt him. So for me, I have no idea how that's going to play out, but I'm kind of like, I'm just going to sit back, have some popcorn and enjoy the show, whatever happens with that. But all right, we're running up on an hour here, so I think we just kind of keep moving and move on to some conference champions here. So for the Big 12 and the SEC, kind of going for value here. If you're picking one of those, you can also go with a Big 10 or an ACC because we're not picking those, but we're just kind of gonna let it rip a little bit here. Blake, who do you got?
So conference champion, my conference champion. So like not excluded. So I'm going to take a different route. Like probably my best is going to be LSU. I believe they're like plus like 650 or 750 to win the conference. Like I think they're going to be very good, very much in contention for that. And then also Penn State. Like if you think they're going to be there at the end of the year, I think it's plus 200. Like not great odds, but like the Big Ten is going to be a 3-horse race at the end of the day. So if you really think they're going to be the one, just put down the money then, because they could be a favorite by the time it rolls down. But if we're going to go like true value, which conference I'm going to. There's one conference that is truly wide open. You don't take the ACC when it comes to dark horses. No. You go to the Big 12, and who is my Big 12 dark horse this year at plus 800 odds? The back of the pack, I think, of the teams that can actually win it. It is the TCU Horned Frogs. This schedule is brutal. It is brutal. When it comes to Big 12 standards, this is a very, very, very hard schedule. But if all the pieces fit for this TCU squad, they are going to be right there in contention. I think this conference is loaded with good quarterback play. It rivals the SEC this year of just top to bottom. It seems like everybody just has an absolute stud. TCU, I think, has one of the most underrated ones. Like people talk about Rocco Beck because he's been there for a while. People have talked about Sawyer Robinson because I don't know, like the media really got behind him, even though him and Josh Hoover had very similar stats, very similar offenses, and just media machine got behind him. We got Sam Levitt coming off of a fantastic performance against Texas. Like he's a fantastic quarterback, but I think Josh Hoover is right up there with them. And this offense, TCU's offense, lost a lot when it comes to the wide receiver room. You lose Savion Williams, who was kind of your wide receiver 2+ running back. Jack Besh obviously went on JP Richardson, but the transfers that we got in there are absolutely insane. So we had Eric McAllister last year. He was kind of a gadget guy for us. He's going to be wide receiver 1. I think he was one of the top receivers leading the nation for catches that lead to first downs. Like this guy is just a speed and vertical threat. Like TCU operates very well when we have one of those. And then we got Jordan Dwyer from, I believe it was Idaho. He was like the top FCS receiver last year. A lot of teams were looking after him. I like this wide receiver room. I think we filled in a little bit more on running back. I think we'll be able to run the ball a little bit more. Kendall Browse offense is always obviously going to be throwing it a lot. And then Andy Avalos kind of did what Blake Baker did at LSU, took us from one of the just like getting gashed all the time to not like a fantastic defense, but to middle of the pack, which is where we want to be. We return a lot of guys there. Bud Clark leading that unit. And when you just look at the Big 12, like, I know this is homery, but when you look at the top like 5 or 6 teams, they can all kind of win this. Like, I cut it off probably at Iowa State, and TCU's just one below them in the odds, and like could easily be there with like the quality. The quality is there. So I like taking flyers when it comes to conference champions because a lot can happen in the season. If they're so close to money, even like the Penn State, like I said, you don't want that money locked up for months and months and months on end. Like, that's no fun, and things can happen and disasters can go wrong. And so, but yeah, TCU, I think back of the pack at the Big 12 odds, but I think has the potential to be one of the top tier teams in that conference.
Yeah, and I think TCU has something that is really valuable in college football, which is, continuity. And I feel like even though last year was not, what you wanted, in terms of a bit of a bounce back season, it was decent, but I don't know. I am a believer in that program. I think Hoover is a pretty solid quarterback, and I don't know. I don't hate that, especially in a conference where I truly don't know who's going to come out on top at all. It's genuinely wide open. And as we learned from last year, it truly could be anyone's game, We'll say Big 12 wise, Iowa State at plus 1100 and even Kansas at plus 1800, who finished with some really strong momentum. Like, if Leipold and, Daniels can like put it together, I could see that being a nice little run. They're back at home, they're not having to go to Kansas City to play all of their home games and all that mess last year. So they'll be back at David Booth. I could see Kansas making a run. I don't know.
Have you heard this one before? Will Jalen Daniels stay healthy for Kansas to lead them to any success? I think we've done this. It feels like we've done this for the past 8 years. Let's talk about this guy being like, when he's healthy, he's awesome, but he never plays.
That's where they're long shot. That's where they're like a fun long shot pick, not a, I would not pick them directly, but
I think he's a genius. It needs to be his genius needs to be recognized. He plays these amazing games against nobody opponents. And then the second there's anyone meaningful on the schedule, he has back spasms or something and then is out for the season. Right. And or he'll come back. He'll come back for that like week 9, like FCS opponent, smoke him, and then be like, oh, sorry, I tweaked my back again. I gotta sit. It's a genius plan.
He's a PR master.
It's going to piss me off in like 10 years. There's going to be like the biggest what if stories in college football. And it's like, what if Jalen Daniels stayed healthy? And when I see that, it's just going to send me over the edge. I
think he's going to get a practice squad, but I think this is going to get him to the league.
Yeah.
He's going to make a couple mil off some NFL team pulling this scheme.
Ty, you got any good conference champions?
Yes, I do. I have a couple that I am very, very, very biased for, but I like them. By the way, I'm not sure if you guys saw in the chat, but LSU you can get on ESPN Bet for 800 for the SEC. So if you're going to go with them, that sounds like the best odds. And then TCU 900 on ESPN Bet for the Big 12. But I really like within the Big 12 plus 600 for my forks up for the ASU Sun Devils. Will they not do it? Probably. Could they do it? Potentially. No one knows, which I like. But I think that Kenny Dillingham is going to put some stuff together. A lot of people love him. He has said on multiple occasions, including alarmingly recently, that Mike Gundy is his idol as a coach and who he hopes to emulate. So is that alarming? Not for me, because I've taken Oklahoma State's over as well. But I like ASU, and I like that value there. I think when I go below that, I don't have that TCU sort of bias and hopium as much as I also love TCU, but I can't go into the 900s there. I don't think it's tremendous value necessarily at plus 375 on ESPN Bet is where I found my best odds. Someone might find it better somewhere else. And obviously we still have a bit of time before the season starts, but I got to go with my Navy midshipman as well for the AAC. I didn't like their win total. I'm not going to lie. That's why they didn't come up. It's pretty high, obviously riding off a high, beating OU in the bowl game. But it does have to be said that for the first couple minutes of that game, as Bobby will tell you, OU
That was the best 6
control.
minutes of football I've ever seen in my life.
OU was quite in control of that game for the first 2 touchdowns scored.
There weren't many touchdowns scored.
It was a challenging
There weren't many
one
touchdown
for me.
scores after that.
Yeah, many people will not experience what I experienced in that bowl game. You know, Jameson, I don't think will ever experience a Boko versus OU bowl game. Bobby might experience an OU versus Oklahoma State bowl game, and obviously Blake has experienced OU TCU, but Blake is also not an OU fan, so it doesn't really apply. But yeah, I like that value. I think they're good within their conference. Their schedule, you know, I think there were like 9.5 wins, which is a little much, I think, for the team. But Coach Newberry is an amazing coach over there. Unfortunately, you know, had to make the move away from Coach Niumatalolo, but I think it's been proven to be the right decision. Obviously, Coach Ken is succeeding elsewhere, and Coach Brian Newberry, who's from Norman, Oklahoma, and is a big OU fan, is doing great things at the Naval Academy. So I like them for the AAC, and those are my 2 that I love for the conference.
Yeah, I like Navy there, you know, especially because I feel like Tulane, you know, even though, you know, had some pretty solid moments, had just a brutal portal outing, kind of. You know, they lost some really key you know, players and, you know, key factors in that team last year. So I really feel like the American is pretty wide open. I'm gonna go with Blake, you're going to love this. And maybe it sounds wild, but I'm going to go with UNLV at plus 650 with Dan Mullen in charge. I know that sounds wild, but with Boise, you don't have Ashton Genty anymore. That whole dynamic's different. You know, obviously they are by far the favorites. But if old Dan Mullen can figure it out in one game, that's all he needs, one game at plus 650 as the next best team from the Mountain West. I'm just saying it could happen.
It's a good one to take into conference championship Saturday and just be hedging the crap out of it. Like, you won't get much out of it because Boise will be such a heavy favorite, but yeah, the quarterback situation at UNLV is going to be interesting. Like, you have Alex Orji from Michigan there, who I just don't even know if he can play, or what's his name? Anthony Calandria from Virginia, who just like, he only has 2 plays. It's interception or 80-yard touchdown throw. So he just kind of goes for it all the time. Alex Orji's the exact opposite. He is afraid to throw and just refuses to. And so who knows what's going to come out of that. Like, Orji, you would think would fit better, but I think Anthony Calandria is like the way better quarterback. If you can't win at quarterback at Michigan, I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want to see you anymore in college football. We learned this with Joe Milton. I'm tired of hyping up these like failed Michigan projects that are just so bad that we know they're bad, but we get hyped up because they have some unique physical tool, like Alex Orji in his legs, or Joe Milton because he can throw an orange 120 yards. Like, if you can't make it at Michigan at quarterback, I don't want you. There's no saving you.
Okay, first off, Alan Bowman slander will not be tolerated on this podcast.
He was so bad.
I forgot Bowman was at
the Iron Lung.
He was there. I forgot
Lung. The Iron Lung.
Just a weird stop, like layover in Ann Arbor.
Oh my God!
From Lubbock to Stillwater.
Failed at Michigan. I was like, the Iron Lung. I'll tell you what. Here's what makes the Schooner Pod different. We give you these insights that other people won't give you in college football, and that is the fact that UNLV will absolutely start Alex Orji, but then replace him by Calandria, because everyone knows you start with Orji and then you leave with Calandria.
Damn. I see where you're going there. I'll say this.
That's Vegas, baby. That's Vegas.
Overall about Michigan, though, because Darren in the chat has kind of asked us about OU Michigan a little bit. I think in general the Wolverines are I don't know. I'm intrigued to see where they end up here, and I will say OU wise, like just from an OU Michigan perspective, I feel like you're getting Michigan at a pretty decent time, given that it's you're either rolling in with Bryce Underwood in game number 2 if he's the starter, or Fresno State's old quarterback. I'm blanking on the name, Blake.
Oh gosh. Oh, is it Mikey Keene?
Yeah, Mikey Keene. So I don't know. I feel like there's just still a lot of unknowns in Michigan. I think that's a must win for OU. Obviously, every game is in college football, but I don't know. I feel like it's going to be such an interesting, kind of. I think that game is going to be fascinating. I personally think that OU's defensive line is going to be a really tough one to handle. Michigan traditionally does have a great O-line. I don't know where they are right now. I haven't really done a lot of the OU Michigan research yet on this, but I don't know where we kind of at, like this far out in advance for it. Darren says it's going to be Underwood. Let's go. Hey, that's why you pay him. I don't know. What do we think about that game?
I think I'm intrigued. Like, this is one of the most intriguing games to me. I don't know what the heck either of these teams are. It's teams built solely out of hype or what you think, but I don't know how they're going to end up. It's like Michigan, I see the consistency with that program on both the offensive and defensive line. I see Bryce Underwood, who is going to be, if he's not this year, he's going to be great. Like, he just has that skill set. He has those intangibles that I'm like, if it doesn't work out this year, it's going to work out in years to come. So I don't know what he's going to look like as a freshman. OU is like the biggest question mark to me. Like, thank God the SEC pod is still weeks and weeks away, because I don't know where I stand this season. Am I going to be full OU hater that I told you so at the end of the day that this team was going to be bad, or if Boomer Blake has to return? Because this team, the national love for OU is getting out of control. It could be warranted, though. It could be warranted. I look at this and I'm like, everything's set up for their success, but is it going to be like, could it end like Brent, like I'm saying, Brent Brennan and Mike Norvell and all these other ones, where it's just like you made all these moves, you dropped all this money only to be bad. It could be that. So this is just like, this one I'm just trying not to think about too much and just enjoy it, because I think it's going to be a back and forth war of like just unknowns that we don't like, that have failed to present themselves and might not present themselves till the end of the year. I don't know what the result of this game's going to be.
Yeah, and it's going to be fascinating. It's one that, as an OU fan, you're very thrilled to have in Norman and not going to the big house, because it's going to be a stress test regardless, but having it at home is going to just be a huge boost for OU. And he just mentioned that Michigan's offensive line is actually full of question marks. So that's actually, hey, there you go. If that's the case, that is a really bad defensive line to bring an untested O-line in against it, especially with a freshman quarterback back there. I'm a biased guy. I'm pretty high on this OU team, and I'll say it this way: if OU is going to have any sort of long-term success, I think you got to get Michigan. I think you got to get Michigan. I think you got to get Auburn. And to me, I feel like you're playing the game early enough where, thankfully, probably no injuries. Knock on wood. That was a huge issue with the team last year. You're getting a fresh squad. Probably not going to show anything against Illinois State, obviously. So intrigued to see how it's going to work out. But I think that's going to be one of the most fascinating games of the college football season. Second time ever that OU and Michigan have ever played, which is baffling. The first time in Norman that Michigan has made an appearance. So, anyways, I'm sorry to kind of move the pod away, but look, if you have a comment, I'm always happy to kind of digress for sure. But, anyways, let's. Do we have any other conference championship picks that we like? Did I ever give? I gave my UNLV one. I know that's a little
conference champion picks or value conference champion picks.
I mean, if we
you
wanted
do
to go
like
overall,
it's value. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you're betting as a square for conference championships futures, like seek help. There's no reason you should have your money locked up, or there's no reason why you should drop that much money on a conference championship future if it's like below like plus 200.
I will say outside of the ACC, all of the conference championship bets are significantly better odds than any of the win totals that I've seen. So even like the most chalk conference championship is going to be a better return on your money than any win totals. So there is that. But
for the money being locked up that long, and if you put a decent amount, like if something goes wrong, then you're totally screwed.
Like if you go Clemson plus 105,
yeah,
and especially with how big these conferences are,
where
it's like
they're tiebreakers.
Yeah, if you lose a tiebreaker, you have a bad game, lose a tiebreaker. I mean, you're SOL. Ty.
Sharon Moore is an OU alum.
Yeah, he is. He was an offensive lineman for the Sooners in the mid 2000s. So for the second straight year, we have a return game. Well, not a revenge. I don't think it's a revenge game. We didn't do anything to him.
He played with Sam Bradford. I didn't know that. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, he didn't play a ton, from what I understand. I think he because I believe he ended up finishing his career elsewhere. But yeah, there's an OU a OU storyline with Sharon Moore coming home. So that is interesting for sure.
Wow. How many times are we going to get smoked at home by an OU? Like last year, we had Navy in the bowl game. We had Tennessee.
I feel like we're this OU
we got Coach Beamer at South Carolina.
Oh God! Oh yeah. Hopefully the buck stops here with that. We've had a bad streak of guys coming back to Norman. And Eli Drinkowitz, born in Norman.
Oh, that's crazy. At least we'll never have to face USC because they're doing just as bad. But
the great thing about this OU season as a neutral watcher, it's one of y'all is going to be extremely right and the other is going to be extremely wrong. And that is what makes me happy at the end of the day.
There's no middle ground.
Yeah, I feel like it's like this team either hits on all cylinders and is really good and is actually competing for the SEC, or it's just a complete and utter disaster again.
I cannot wait for July 30th. 2026 when we do a futures pod and Bobby is red in the face screaming at you, Blake, about why Urban Meyer is the future and he will win OU 10 games. I will be vindicated. Urban Meyer will be coaching in Norman.
It's not happening. There's no way in hell that's happening.
And yet
it will happen.
I say there's only two possibilities, but it would also be hilarious if just like 7 and 5 happened and everybody's like grasping at straws once again.
No one's happy.
Well, 7 and 5, I think.
Joe C just doesn't make a decision. Joe C just pushes it off to the new AD.
Yeah, your first task is to hire a new football coach,
or just make a decision.
Yeah. Anyways, but I don't know. I think the Sooners. By the way, if we wanted to go win total on that, I like OU over.
Shocker.
I know, astonishing. I did it last year, and that bit me in the ass. But this team, I actually do think is pretty good. Or I think we'll be pretty good. I think they addressed all of their issues.
You have to win the games. You have to win the games like that. Yeah. You have to. If you don't with this roster and the expenditures that you did this offseason, it's over for everyone.
I will say, and this is maybe a relevant segue, but Mateer is top 10, certainly top 25 for Heisman odds right now. So,
let's talk about that. Do a little Heisman aspect to close this thing out in terms of, I feel like this is pretty wide open, especially judging by the fact that Arch Manning is, kind of the leader in the clubhouse right now, which, played great against UL Monroe and, obviously highly recruited and all that.
Okay, stop it, Bobby. You can't be coming out here acting like Arch Manning is just like he had some like great games against some like awful opponents, and that's the only thing he has going for him.
It's not the only thing he has going for him, but it wasn't enough for me to be like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna win the Heisman.
I know, but you understand why he's at the top. He's at one of the top teams in the country and is a freak athletically. If he lives up to about 75% of the potential, he's automatically one of the best quarterbacks.
I mean, I understand. I understand
yeah,
why he's there. I just disagree with it. I don't know. I would like to see I'm just saying the Heisman is clearly wide open if the top guy is a guy who hasn't really played a full season of football.
That's fair.
Like that. That was my point more than anything. I understand the appeal.
Yeah. Real quick, I do have to mention, as a Quinn Ewers hater, we kind of need OU to lose Red River this year, because if OU goes and smokes Arch Manning in Red River, then Quinn Ewers is going to look even better. And
Okay,
I
what?
No. I got to stop you here.
Do I like OU more than I hate Quinn Ewers? I don't know if the answer is yes.
Yeah,
But if you're beating Texas this year, then that means Mateer is good and the offense is humming and like.
Yeah, you would way rather have that. I know that's just a bit, Ty, but
Big Nuts has a good point here. I know, Bobby, you underestimate my capacity for hate outweighing my capacity for love. I will say that. But Lord King Big Nuts has a very good point.
He said that Arch is a 3-star quarterback with a 5-star name.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that one. Arch is good. Arch is good.
Arch is probably good. We just haven't seen it yet. That's fine. We probably will see it. But I just, let's play some games. Let's see how he does in the shoe. He might do great in the horseshoe. He might have a establishing game there. I don't know. I haven't really seen him in pressure. I saw him play against Georgia when Sarkisian randomly threw him in there. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But, I think Arch probably more likely than not is probably going to be pretty good, especially with Texas around him. But overall, do we have any value kind of guys? I feel like there's some spots for some value here with the Heisman. I'm going to go ahead and say I love Lenora Sellers at plus 1,800. I really do like. Okay. Is that wild? Is that wild?
It's not wild. Lenora Sellers' bad is very bad. His bad is very, very bad. And so I don't see the consistency out of him.
I don't know.
I think I suck with Heisman stuff, though.
We've seen from Heisman voters, though, that they value like highlight reels 4 to 5 times as much as they value any sort of like poor performance. So
I agree.
Even if there's I think you can have everyone gets like 1 or 2 like stinker game excuses. I think probably 1. Everyone gets 1. Some people get 2. But I feel like in the Heisman, there's guys that you can have depending on who you are, 3 to 5 absolute what in the world was that stinker plays every single game if you're a guy that gets all the snaps and it gets excused. And I don't know, but I just feel like this is not a segue into my pick, but I just feel like highlight reel stuff way outvalues any sort of negative. So I don't know, I kind of underweight those negatives.
I hate Heisman bets. I think they're all kind of bad. I just think it's a bad bet. So if you're gonna do it, take a long shot. I'm gonna go DJ Lagway, just plus 2,500. And if he takes Florida and Florida always has a tough schedule just due to who their rivals are. And if Florida's actually good again, then I like quarterbacks that take teams and rise up. I think of like the top ones, like the interesting one to me is probably Jeremiah Smith, just because like we have seen in the past, like wide receivers have the capability to win this award. I think he is by far the best wide receiver. And I think Ohio State, because of their schedule, they can put up stats, they can put up numbers and stuff like that in order to support them. But I don't know. Like, I just always hate Heisman bets because it's like the front runners, even if they are like, we've seen it before. It's like when it's Andrew Luck's race to lose, if it's Trevor Lawrence's race to lose, they have one bad performance and they get shot down the like list because they were number one, but like they still had historic seasons off the like during those times. And so it just kind of frustrates me. So I'm like, if you're going to take one, go for a long shot, put a little bit of money on it. But I don't know. Like it just changes week to week so much.
Yeah. It's so storyline based. It's a really tricky thing to project. And I don't know. I just kind of threw it in the pod just for fun. But
no, it's always good because it's like because you could actually make a lot of money on these because if you do choose it right.
Jeremiah Smith is a fun one though.
No. There's a very obvious Heisman pick. There's a very obvious Heisman pick. If you know how to like short people in the Heisman, I don't know like the vehicle that you would use to do that, but Cade Klubnik is number 2 right now. Absolutely fade that. If there's a way to actually
Cade Klubnik's going to be fantastic. Money on that.
But,
we did talk about him. Clemson's going to be great this year. They're going to be awesome. No, I disagree with you. I think Cade Klubnik at the end of the season last year was fantastic.
Who has Dabo ever seen as besides Trevor Lawrence, which is pure aura off his haircut? Dabo has never been able to find a quarterback that's actually a good dude.
Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson's a good dude. Deshaun Watson's a good dude,
but he's
a horrible dude. But in college, he was incredible.
No. I'm clipping that.
No,
look, we're just talking about quarterbacking. Deshaun, OU fans know more than anyone how good that dude was. But
no, Cade is fantastic. Cade's going to be very good this year. They have a great receiving core, good running backs. They have continuity like throughout. Like talk about Penn State levels. Like I think even more. Like their returning production's insane for a team that was starting to click on all cylinders at the end. Like I like where they're at. I love where they're at. Like I think I could easily see a Penn State Clemson national championship.
I just don't think I'm buying Clemson still. There's just something about them. I don't know. I know that sounds like just genuinely horrible analysis here. We'll see how it goes. But
I think this season's going to break a lot of molds throughout, and so that's how I'm going to get rich on the weekend spread. Is y'all doubting people like Penn State and Clemson because of previous like conceptions of how they are and what they could do and what their potential is. Where I think those two teams are probably best set to win a national championship this year.
Here's what's going to happen with Clemson. I'm sure they're going to lose to LSU week 1. We're going to kind of write them off. And they're going to be working in the shadows, stacking wins. And then by the end of the year, they're like, oh, yeah, wait, Clemson's actually really good.
Yeah, they gave Texas their best run last year besides Ohio State. Like, that actually beat them.
Arizona State?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
In overtime?
They gave good run. But yeah, Clemson, but also the difference there, Clemson had to go on the road and play at Austin.
Yeah,
and, like,
that's true.
Played really well. So,
yeah. Look, I'm just
without
saying.
Phil Maffa as running back, like in the wide receiver room, getting a year older, I like where Clemson's at.
Yes, yeah.
And just talking about Texas. Go ahead, Ty. I'm sorry. Go for it.
I was just gonna say tremendous insight from both of you that a team that has made the playoffs 7 times in the past decade and won the national championship 3 times? 3 times, and
was it 3 times
in the past decade? What national? Clemson? 2 times, been to the national championship 4 times in the past decade.
Yeah,
is going to be irrelevant with the same head coach. Shocking, brilliant analysis.
But everybody's acting like now that Dabo's some scrub that can't coach in college football in the modern day. Like that's how people are acting on the streets right now.
As people are saying in the chat, Coach Dabo has that drip. He is now on TikTok as well.
I don't know what it is about Dabo, but in that college football video game, after every first season, he ends up going to Alabama like immediately. It happens every time. For some reason, it's Dabo to Alabama and Kalani Sitake to OSU, Oklahoma State. Just like very weird, but
I'm just saying.
Dabo going back home.
Will ball not nowhere be at Alabama this October?
The ball not nowhere. All right, guys. I think that's pretty much all we got. We did a whole 90 on this one,
and I only got through one under. I talked about how many millions of unders I had, and I only got through one.
Do you want to talk about more unders?
Nah, I'm good. I could save them for other times.
Yeah, that's fair. Ty,
I didn't get to give my Heisman pick.
Oh, who's your Heisman pick?
What if I told you guys?
Oh yeah, he did say
there was a player.
Scrub.
There's a player who is a tremendous value in the Heisman. I'm talking, I lost him, plus 2,200. That means for every dollar you invest, you will get $2,200 in return if he wins the Heisman. That's how that works.
Nope.
No time for that. Like, this is not legal. This is pure sales. This is a guy who was Nick Saban's top guy. This was Nick Saban's top choice out of everyone on the board. Linemen, defensive players, whatever safeties are, cheetahs, whatever that is, running backs. This was Nick Saban's top guy, committed to Alabama, left to the portal when Nick Saban left Alabama, rightfully so, because he knows coaches and he knows that coaches determine everything. Then went to Ohio State, where he won a national championship last year. Did he play? No, because he's a guy that can win his team a national champion without even touching the field. Now he is playing, and that is Julian Sayin. And I'm perhaps pronouncing that incorrect.
Julian Sayin, yeah.
The quarterback, the starting quarterback for The Ohio State University. We all know that Heisman is pure hype. It's a hype award. And if Ohio State can just clean out the Big Ten, like they are built to do, just by being the quarterback, if he's the biggest star,
not built to do that.
He will already.
They literally did not do it last year when they won the national championship. They didn't even
yes,
make their
because
own title
Oregon,
game.
because Oregon had
beat
Dylan
Michigan.
Gabriel and everything else,
and they didn't beat their rival.
Okay,
they did a lot of things. They didn't do a lot of things right, but
yeah,
but won a natty, so that's what kind of the only.
They
thing
won the
matters.
national championship. Okay.
Yeah,
it was weird. Yeah,
it was.
They failed
weird.
a bunch of side quests, but got the main mission done.
They were speed running. Running because they're bored. I'm just saying, if I'm looking at value, right? If I were to just place a bet, like what's the best chance of catching, I'm probably going Arch Manning or Nussmeier. But Nussmeier's, Arch Manning is 600, Nussmeier's plus 900. Saying every dollar you invest, you get $2,200 in return. That's better than Bitcoin in like 2008, which it didn't even exist. So you're talking about like you just personally know Shiitake Nakamoto or whatever his name is that invented Bitcoin, and you're just getting in on the ground floor.
I need you to make Saiyan coin now and try to pump and dump
some Saiyan sense.
If we could show a picture of Julian Sayin on the pod, which we've gone on too long to do, but you would not expect that he just looks like Arch Manning 2.0. But
I had never looked up a picture of Julian Sayin. This is.
But if I told you there was someone named Julian Sayin, you would not predict.
Badass Julian, absolute badass name.
He looks like Arch Manning or Nussmeier.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you just showed me a picture of that guy, I'd be like, "Oh, is this one of the Ole Miss?"
Josh Hoover.
Yeah, that looks like he looks like the Ole Miss fraternities will have tackle football games. I'm like, oh
yeah,
dude, yeah, he's the Sig Up quarterback at Ole Miss.
The Sigma Nu versus Sigma Chi football game at Ole Miss. They've got 17 Julian Sayins on both sides of the ball every snap.
That's funny. All right. We've gone on long enough, boys, but this was a very fun way to launch us back into our college football talk. We'll be back next week to break down the Big 12. Us three will be ranking our top 10 teams in the Big 12. if y'all enjoyed this, make sure to give us hit that subscribe button. We cover OU football and the world of college football every week. During the season, we'll have OU content on Sundays, and then weekend spread content every Wednesday. And then just plenty of previews. We're going now through week week 0. It's upon us, boys, and it's gonna be a pretty fun one. So, anyways, for me, Ty, and Blake, this has been the Weekend Spread. We'll see you next time. Have a great one, everybody. Good luck out there, and Boomer Sooner.